Well, hello again. This is Roger Koch Barr, the instructor for bioelectricity, and this is week 2 of our course. Thank you for coming back and being here with us this week. I'm very happy to be able to talk this week because this is an exciting week where I will show you some interesting things that are just beyond imagination if you don't know about them already. Within the larger scope of the course, I wanted to mention that we are now in week 2, the week about energy. Where do bioelectric tissues, electrically active tissues, get their energy? That is not so obvious, so that's what we have to talk about. In talking about energy, we will think about it as analogous to the train system where they're trying to get some money to build the trains by selling tickets. What the membrane needs to do is to get some energy in the form of transmembrane voltage, Vm. Once it has that voltage, then it can make things go in a very efficient fashion. So it's looking for this voltage Vm. In order to discuss how it gets the voltage Vm, we need to discuss the idea of a membrane patch. In bioelectricity, people are all the time talking about a membrane patch. We will today. So what are people talking about when they're talking about a membrane patch? We have to have that first, and then we'll come back later on and talk about it again. For the particular topics for week 2, they are more or less in 2 groups. I won't go through this list in detail, but at the top half of the list is all of these issues about energy. It's this portion. In the latter half of the lectures for the week, there is a more technical, somewhat more boring discussion, but nonetheless an essential discussion about membrane patch, its resistance and its capacitance. That's necessary so that membrane patches can then be built up and incorporated into larger units in later weeks of the course. So first let's go to the idea of a membrane patch. What are people talking about when they talk about a patch? People with a mathematical background often say, well, this is like an infinitesimal element in calculus. It's sort of true in that a patch is a small element. As to physical size, people are talking about regions of membrane that are maybe maybe 10 to 100 microns on a side if it's rectangular, or maybe 100 microns in diameter if it's circular. It's not very well defined, but it means the idea that it incorporates is that it's a segment of membrane that's large enough to have all the pumps and all the channels present in their true proportion. So you have to picture this in the right way. A patch is say if it's rectangular, it would be like this. Then in the patch are scattered different structures that are inserted into the membrane. So maybe here's some channels, and maybe here's some pumps. A patch has to be big enough that it has these channels and pumps have to be present, and they have to be present in approximately their true proportions in the membrane as a whole. That's the idea of a patch. Now, the discussion that we'll have of a patch goes in 2 directions. First, there'll be a discussion of energy in the patch. This is just a fascinating topic. Second, there'll be a discussion of patch resistance and capacitance. That's boring, but it's essential. So let me sketch a membrane patch. Where is the patch? Well, the patch is this little box right here, this portion of the membrane that is present. That much of it. That's a patch. Now, I haven't tried to draw a scale diagram, but you get the idea. It's a little part of the surface membrane. Now, let me ask you a bigger question. Where is the motor in this train? Where is the engine? Where is the electrical action that drives the cells, all of its electrical systems? Where is the energy coming from? What's running this? And you could say, well, it's like a train engine. It's inside, but it's not inside. It's not inside. You could say, well, maybe it's outside. Well, it's not outside. The fact is, the energy that drives the train is in the patch. It's right in there. It's in the membrane itself. You know, that is just an incredible answer. It's as if when you see a picture of a train engine, you say the engine is not inside that shell you see on the outside. The engine is the shell. But if you looked at the train, you'd say, that's impossible. The engine is too big and too complicated to be in the shell. Maybe that's so for train engines, but in cells, the engine that drives the train, electrically speaking, is the energy that's in an individual patch. So it's just an amazing phenomenon. The next time you look at something shrink-wrapped at the grocery store, say to yourself, my product is in the shrink wrap. It's not inside. It's not outside. It is the shrink wrap itself. That's what we are saying when we talk about membranes and membrane patches. So that concludes this segment. Thank you for your attention. I'll see you in the next segment.